So today we're going to be looking at Unit 4, Lesson 7. This is your practice exercise. Normally I would kind of show you some of it and then let you figure out some of it. Today I'm actually going to walk through most of this with you because this is a lesson that most students kind of struggle with. Not that it's overwhelmingly hard, but they do really kind of dive into these if-else statements. Also, just kind of the flow of it is different than other lessons in code.org, and it just tends to kind of confuse students. So when you're looking at Lesson 7, you're going to see that there's 3 apps. All right, you do not have to do all 3 apps. What you need to do is choose one app that you are going to work on throughout the entire lesson. So as we move forward, you'll see that on every single level, it shows the same 3 apps. So whichever app you choose on level 1 needs to be the same app that you choose on level 2, 3, 4, all the way up through 7. All right, and they go from easy to hard. So the Mind Ease is the easiest version of this. Velocity is a slightly harder version, and then Tick Finder is the hardest one. So we're just going to go through Mind Ease. So on every lesson, we're going to choose this one. And what you're going to see is, it starts off just kind of showing us this app, right? So if I just run the app, you can see that I can choose numbers for my stress level. So I'm going to say my stress level is 6. My happiness level, I'm going to say it's, 8. How much time do you have? I'm just going to say I have 5 minutes. Then I can choose suggest activities, and it's going to say pick one of the following activities: exercise, dancing, cooking a favorite meal. So the idea behind this app, which is what this user story kind of gets into, right? These user stories are something that we use as developers to help us plan our apps. And it's basically from the perspective of a user, what are we trying to accomplish, or what are we trying to code? So we'll break down an app into multiple user stories and then code each user story one at a time until we finish the app. So this first level, they just want you to think about the purpose of the app. They also want you to think about the functionality of the app. So remember, back when we first started, the purpose of the app is what it's programmed, like what is this app designed for, right? What problem is it trying to solve? Functionality is how does the program actually run? So we're looking at what are the inputs, what are the outputs. Right, so for the purpose, I can just say, this app is designed to help people support their mental health by, gathering certain information from them and then suggesting activities that they could do. For the functionality, we want to talk about how it actually works. So we could say, the app has 3 inputs. One is our stress level, one is our happiness level, and one is how much time do we have. The app will then output suggested activities based on those inputs. All right, so the purpose is just a general statement. What is the app designed to do? The functionality is how does this app actually work? So you should be talking about those inputs and outputs. All right, so on level 2, again, we're going to go with Mind Ease, because that's the one that we're working on. Oops. Sorry. There we go. We're going to work on like 6 milestones on this app, right? So every single level is going to have us add a tiny little bit of the functionality to it. So on this one, they want us to look at all the elements on the app. So I can see that there's a stress label, a stress drop down. That one they did not rename. That should be like a happiness label, happiness drop down, and then a time label and a time drop down. What they want us to do, if you look at lines 1 through 7, you can see that they've created a bunch of variables. Some of them they've given a value to, like line 4 and line 7. Some of them they have not assigned a value to yet, so they just created the container for us. There's no value assigned to it. And we're getting some warnings, so I can see that stress is defined, but it's not called in my program. So I created this variable, but I have not used it yet. What they want us to do is basically get the value that the user chooses in this drop-down menu. And I can see, if I'm looking at the app, they have put some comments in here and they're telling me where to add this code. So I'm working on milestone 1 right now. So I will go to the comment milestone 1 and it says get the needed user input values and assign them to the variables. So what it wants you to do right? They've already created the variables for us because we can see stress with that var keyword in front of it that creates that container. They want us to actually assign a value to this now. And they want it to do it once the user selects something in this dropdown. So we now have a variables tab in our toolbox, and you can see that there's some different things to do here. So this first one, this is if we're going to create a variable and assign it a value immediately. The second one is if we're going to create a variable, but we're not going to assign it a value. So if you look at lines 1, 2, 3, they used this to create those variables. Right. For this one here, they created the variable using that keyword var and they gave it a value, so they would have used this one where you can give it a name and assign it a value. So in this case, when these options are chosen in the dropdown, they're telling us to use that x equals this third one, and they're telling us to use the UI control get number, which is a new command for us. So I can, there's 3 dropdowns. There's the stress dropdown, the happiness, and the time dropdown. So they're telling me, to assign values to stress, happiness, and time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag 3 of these out here so that I can assign values to those 3 variables. The first one is stress. Right, the second one is happiness. And the third one is time. And then they're telling me to use this get number and then the ID for the element that I want to get the number from. So if I go to UI controls, there's a get number. So I'm going to drag these out here. And then I'm going to choose the appropriate ID, right? So to get the number, I want the stress dropdown. To get the happiness, I'm going to choose the happiness dropdown. And to get the time, I'm going to choose the time dropdown. Right. And then to test this, I can actually add the watchers. And I'll see, because my app's not fully functional yet, but I should see when this app first runs, these are going to be undefined. But as I choose values in the drop-down, right, once I click this button, because this is inside of an on event, I should see that those values update to what I chose. If I choose, 8 for this one, I should see my 3 change to an 8, which it does. Right, so that's basically the first level. We've completed milestone 1. So I'm going to finish and continue. I'm going to go to level 3. And I'm going to go to my MindEase app. So for this one, I am working on milestone 2. And what they want me to do is for users with 30 minutes or less, right? So if time is less than or equal to 30, tell them to pick 1 activity. For others, tell them to pick 3 activities. And you could choose, the show me. It's going to kind of show me where to go on here. But again, I'm looking at these comments. It's milestone 2. So they've already added the if-else statement. And just from reading this, I know that basically if time is less than or equal to 30, I want to say this, else I want to say this. All right, so what I'm going to do, in here, I can go to my math, and I know I'm going to do less than or equal to, because if time is less than or equal to 30, right, time is less than or equal to 30, then I want it to say this. Otherwise, right, so if time is not less than or equal to 30, I want it to say this. All right, so now if I run my app and I choose, some things and I suggest activities, it's saying 1 minute because time is less than or equal to 30. If I choose, 50, it's going to say to pick 3 activities because this was false, so line 22 ran. All right, remember, you got to understand these if-else statements. So I posted some videos. They're the code.org videos that specifically go over if-else, and if-else if statements. They're only about a minute or 2 long. Make sure you watch those because you need to understand these to pass this class. So I'm going to go ahead and finish and continue. I'm then going to go to level 4. Again, I'm doing the MindEase app. And now I'm looking at milestone 3. So this one, for users who rated their happiness higher than 5, assign the variable happiness level a value of high. For others, assign happiness level a value of low. So I am looking for milestone 3. For users who rated their happiness level higher than 5, assign assign it high, otherwise assign it low. So this is going to need an if-else statement. So I'm going to go to my controls and drag out the if-else statement. And again, I'm looking if happiness is greater than 5. Right, it's higher than 5, not greater than or equal to. So if happiness is greater than 5, then what I want to do is this happiness level, which I've created this variable, but I haven't assigned it a value, I want to now give it a value. So I'm going to go back to my variables. Again, I don't need these first two because I'm not creating a new variable. I'm using one that I already created. And basically, I'm going to say happiness level is equal to, and then I'm creating a string, so I need to use my quotes around it. All right, so if happiness is greater than 5, say it's high, otherwise say it's low. All right, so what I could do now is add the watcher for happiness level. It's going to start off undefined. If I run the app, I should see that value change as I do this, right? So my happiness level was higher than 5, it's 8, so it gave it high, like it should, because this evaluated to true. If I change this to a number lower than 5, this will be false, and it should say that it's low, right? Which is what we're seeing in the watchers. So we're going to go ahead and finish and continue. We're going to go to level 5. We're going to go to the MindEase app. All right, so this one, we're looking at milestone 4. It wants us to categorize the stress levels based on the user's reported stress. So for users who rate their stress 7 or higher, so if stress is greater than or equal to 7, I want to assign the stress level high. If it's between 4 to 6, I want to give it medium, otherwise I'm going to give it low. So I'm looking for milestone 4, which is right in here, and you can see they kind of started to build it out for me because there's 3 things I need to check for. I'm going to have an if else, and then the else to catch for the low. So it's saying if my stress level is greater than or equal to 7. So I am going to go to math. I'm going to scroll down to the greater than or equal to, and I'm going to say if stress is greater than or equal to 7. In this case, if it's greater than or equal to 7, it should say high. This one, again, I'm looking to see. Now this time, I've already accounted for if it's 7 or greater. So what I want to do here is say if stress is greater than or equal to 4. Right? Because if it's 7 or higher, this is going to be true and it's going to assign this value. If it's 4 or higher, which at this point can only be 4, 5, or 6, which is what they want, then I'm going to say my stress level is medium. All right? Otherwise, meaning it's less than 4, so it's 3 or less, then I don't need a condition here because that's the only values that could be left, so I'm just going to say it's low. All right? So now if we add stress level to our watchers, if I run the app and I start suggesting stuff and then I click on suggest activities to run my on event, I can see my stress levels being assigned, right? Because I chose 6, stress is greater than or equal to 4, but it's not 7, so this one's false. This one's true and it says medium, right? If I give it a 10, it's going to say, my stress level 10, and I suggest it's going to say high. And if I choose a low number, it's going to say low, right? Because it's just looking at, is this true? If not, is this true? And this is our catch-all, right? So if this is not true and this is not true, it's just going to default to low. So I can go ahead and finish this one and continue. Then I'm going to go to level 6. I'm going to go to mind ease. All right, now I'm working on milestone 5. Milestone 5 is a little more complicated because what they are asking us to do is use this table based on stress level and happiness level to suggest certain activities. All right, so this is where those and or logical operators come in, because now we're going to check to see if stress level's high and happiness level's low. We want to say this. If stress level's high and happiness level's high, we want to do this. And this is where the students start struggling, because this is kind of your first time seeing this. So they've built in the comments that same graph. So I'm going to kind of do this so I can see all of that. And what I want to do is go to my controls. So I'm going to drag out an if else. And I know that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 conditions that I need to check. So what I'm going to need is 1 if, 4 if else's, and then an else, right? Because that'll give me the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 conditions that I need to check. So what I'm going to need to do here, right? I know I'm checking for 2 things, so I'm going to need an and or an or in there. So this is my and this is my or, right? Remember, the and is 2 and signs, the or is the 2 pipes. So I know I'm going to need an and. And then on each side, I'm checking to see if stress level is equal to high or low, and if happiness is equal to high or low. So for each one of these, I'm going to need to check if something's, if 2 sides are equal to one another. All right, so again, I need to do the most strict first. So I'm going to say stress level equals high, and happiness equals low. Right? Because they've kind of written this in the order that we need to do it. So if that's the case, then what I want to do, I have this activities text variable. That's the one that they're telling me to use on this. So I'm going to say that the activities text equals guided meditation, deep breathing exercises, and journaling. Right? So now my first if else is going to look at this second line. So again, I'm going to drag out the and. I'm going to need the equal sign on both of them. Check for equality. And I'm going to say stress level equals high and happiness level equals high. If that's the case, then I want to adjust that activities text to say yoga, listening to upbeat music, engaging in a hobby. All right. And I'm noticing that I'm getting these red squares here. That's because I made a mistake on this one. I forgot to close off this with my closing quotes. All right, because they're strings, so they need to begin and end with quotes. All right, now I see that I get a warnings because stress level or STRE level, right? So again, STRESS level. All right, and this is how we can kind of use these, right, to help us get through this. does. So everything looks good right now. I just need to finish out all these else if. So I am going to leave you guys to finish this, right? I've kind of done the first two for you. You need to build out these bottom four to finish off all of these conditions, right? Once you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and finish and continue. Then you're going to go to level 7, right? The MindEase app. Right. This one I'm going to also leave to you. You don't have to do anything on this level, but what they want you to kind of read through is like, could you refactor your code? Refactoring your code just means you could run through it, find places where you're like repeating yourself or doing the same thing multiple times. Are there ways that you could reduce the number of lines of code you have to make this a little more efficient for users? Is there any problems in your logic that you want to do differently? Maybe you want to try to enhance the user experience, right? So right now this text that it prints out, it's kind of hard to read. Maybe you could use those new line breaks. Remember that \n to make this look a little bit better. Maybe you want to put another space between this activities and the activities that you're going to suggest. Or maybe you want to add a new feature, right? Maybe you want to add a fourth item that you're going to evaluate in this app, right? So not just stress, happiness, and time. Maybe you want to add a fourth one. But again, that's kind of up to you. Just understand what those are, right? Refactoring your code, enhancing the user experience, or adding features. Levels 8 and 9 are just checks for understanding. So once you finish 6, your app should be working as expected. You shouldn't have any warnings or errors in there. Again, I'm still showing warnings because this hasn't been built out on mine. This should be built out on yours, and your app should be working, right? So just make sure you get all these bubbles filled in. Again, on 7, you don't have to actually do anything, just understand what it is and then finish your check for understandings, and then you'll be all done with lesson 7. If you want additional practice, you can always go back through and do either app B or app C. So if you have any questions, make sure you shoot me an email or come by my room. Otherwise, good luck.